You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. Our performances was just lacked that intensity.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da. Well, a lot of pressure on you, Owen.
There is pressure on me, but the question is, where are the performances this week, of course? And from 5 to 1, we'll go through some of the bad performers of the weekend to the good performers of the weekend, as we do here every Monday. A load of good performers, thankfully not so many bad performers, but there is one that sticks out on a Premier League level, and we'll get straight into things here, into the red. Sheffield United. Terrible yesterday against Leicester City, and it's one of those situations where if Chris Wilder was manager, you would have felt a huge degree of sympathy for him, but because Chris Wilder has been nudged out of the football club, you feel a little less sympathy for Sheffield United. He took them from League One to the Premier League. He will go down as one of their all-time greatest managers, and dispute around not being supported enough, a dispute potentially around a director of football has been touted in the media as well over the last couple of days, and of course their terrible run of form means that he's out of the club. Paul Heckingbottom is the boss now, and after getting smashed 5-0. Once Ian Atchell scores a hat-trick against you, you know you're in dire straits. Billy Sharp came out after the game and said it's one of the worst performances since I've been back at the club. No excuses. Embarrassing performance from every single one of us. Very poor. So if Billy Sharp is saying it, then I'm happy enough to stick them in here in the red in this morning's performance rankings.
Okay, in case this is your first experience of the performance rankings, don't worry, we'll be gentle with you. It goes 2 in the red, 1 in the amber, and then 2 in the green. So we start off with the bad every weekend. We get to the mediocre, middling, grand. That's our amber, and then green is green for go, obviously the best performance of the weekend. But you out there can also get involved. We would like your thoughts on this, and we're going to give you the chance every week to win a Gillette starter pack. All you got to do is send in your suggestions to us on Twitter, on Instagram, via WhatsApp, however you want. We want the good, the grand, and the bad. So we've started in the red with Sheffield United. One of the stupidest decisions I think that any football team has made, getting rid of Chris Wilder. The way they did it, they didn't even have the ability to do it properly, like to walk in one day and go, okay, you're gone at the start of the week, and allow somebody to build up for the rest of the week. They were like, will we, how are we going to, should we maybe, what do you think? Yeah, let's tell everybody we're going to do it and then not do it for like 36 hours. Not a very good way to run a football club, and they got what they deserved. An Ian Atchell hat-trick, as you said. What else is in the red this week?
Rory McIlroy is in the red this week. He ended up on 10 over par, didn't make the cut at the Players' Championship over the course of the weekend, with rounds of 79 and 75. Then on Friday, he gave this interview.
What are you most frustrated with, Rory?
Probably like all the swing issues, and where it all stems from probably like October last year, doing a little bit speed training, sort of getting sucked into that stuff. Swing got flat, long, too rotational. Obviously added some speed and hitting the ball. What that did to my swing as a whole probably wasn't a good thing. So I'm sort of fighting to get back out of that.
You're obviously one of the longest players on the PGA Tour. Why do you think you went down that route?
I think a lot of people did. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't anything to do with what Bryson did at the US Open. I think a lot of people saw that and were like, whoa, you know, if this is the way they're going to set golf courses up in the future, it helps. It really helps. The one thing that people don't appreciate is how good Bryson is out of the rough. Not only because of how upright he is, but because his short irons are longer than standard, so he can get a little more speed through the rough than other guys. And I thought, you know, being able to get some more speed is a good thing, and I maybe just, you know, to the detriment a little bit of my swing, I got there, but I just need to maybe rein it back in a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's remarkable to say the least, isn't it? Like I
hadn't heard that. The one thing that everybody always said about Rory McIlroy was his swing was perfect. There's this story which may be apocryphal or not, but it might have been his dad going to the local pro very early on or somebody who was associated with his coaching took him to somebody who was very high profile and said, here, I want you to have a look at him. You know, I've been working away, but I'm not doing that much with him. And the advice was, don't touch it. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Don't tamper with this. And now he's going through what a lot of golfers go through, and it's like you're in your own head. And you're in your own head specifically because the big man with the giant arms and that protein diet he's been on, you're like, no, don't do that. You be you. You were killing fields. Like, let's get your pudding fixed. You'll be grand.
It's interesting to make things worse for Rory McIlroy. Bryson DeChambeau was then asked about McIlroy's comments, and he was like, I appreciate it. First off, I wasn't trying to influence anybody. I was just trying to play my own game. And he said that he knew that there would be people who would try and copy him, and some people who would potentially not work for them, and some people it may help. So I don't really know that, but I do appreciate Rory's comments, he said, which I'm sure is going to make Rory McIlroy feel a hell of a lot better this morning. You mentioned it there, hearing stuff from one of his early coaches about not wanting to screw anything up about this unbelievably pure, brilliant, natural swing. Well, one of the people who knows him very well is Paul McGinley, and here's what McGinley had to say on Sky Sports over the course of the weekend.
I really don't know. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw that last night and hearing him say it. But I'm not surprised. I know I can speak for this as a player myself and an ex-player, playing in these tournaments. We're like sheep. Professional golfers are like sheep, and unfortunately we follow somebody who's having success. What's incredible is one of the best drivers that we've ever seen in the game of golf thinks that he might need to find another 10 or 15 yards. That was not necessary. We all know where Rory's weaknesses are. His approach playing, particularly over the last 12 months, 14 months, have really fallen off the planet, particularly his short irons. I mean, if you put his statistics together from 50 to 150 yards there, he's ranked 200 on the PGA Tour, which is nearly last.
There's part of this as well where you have to say McIlroy's being extremely honest. Like we heard in the first clip there where there is 20 seconds almost where he's trying to gather his thoughts and making a decision in his head whether or not he tells the world that Bryson had a massive impact on his game or not. I'm sure there are plenty of people in McIlroy's shoes who have also tried to change things with their game and ended up messing things up as a result of DeChambeau. I'm sure there are plenty of people across world sport who look at what other teams are doing, what other individuals are doing, and try and copy them and end up putting detriment to their own game or whatever it may be. So I think there's part of this that is like McIlroy being uber honest, and then part of this which is also just absolutely extraordinary. And as you could hear there, McGinley does not hold back on what he's saying about McIlroy. It's just frustrating, I'd imagine, if you're in professional golfer's shoes looking at what's happening here and being able to see obviously what he's done to his own game.
Yeah, doesn't make that much sense. Okay, so McIlroy in the red and staying there for a while, it looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So 10 over par is how he finished after 2 rounds. Didn't make the cut. The players. The grand then, in amber. There can only be one man who fits into amber this week, and it is Erik Lamela. Scores an absolutely outrageous goal to put Tottenham Hotspur 1-0 up in the North London Derby yesterday. Like, it's incredible that Erik Lamela's greatest strength is not his passing, it's not his mentality, it's not his defending, it's not his crossing, it is the art of the Rabona. Imagine being a player where doing Rabonas is the thing that you were best at. That is Erik Lamela. An absolutely outrageous goal, and nutmeg as well involved in it. So it was, and you could see Sergio Reguilón going crazy when he scored it. And then in the second half, Erik Lamela retreats to amber as a result of getting sent off. And he was lucky he didn't get sent off sooner, quite frankly. He was nibbling away at the Arsenal players, that bit of an edge that's always been around Lamela. He is a bit of a nuisance to play against, to put it lightly, and that nuisance spilled over to the point of him getting a second yellow card and getting sent off. So a very Lamela day from Erik Lamela, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, pretty dumb in that second half.
Yeah, completely. So I wouldn't go as far as to say he cost his team the game, which is a bit of a bad mark of where Tottenham were actually at yesterday. I think with 11 men on the pitch, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. And really, they were banging down the door in the last 10 minutes with 10 men on the pitch. The good then, into the green. Let's have a look at our list again. In the green, Irish hockey. in at number 2 here. They lost game 1 on Saturday against Great Britain. They're playing a 3-game series against them at the moment. Then came from behind to win 2-1 yesterday. An absolutely brilliant win for them. Roisin Upton with the penalty, holding her nerve to beat the Brits yesterday. So that should be interesting going into the final game of the series. And then finally, as you can see in the green, English rugby. We have changed our tact here on the performance rankings. We are now putting Ireland's opponents at the top of the performance rankings rather than at the bottom of the performance rankings. We are building them up to the point that English people believe they should be at, which is the greatest team in the world. And sure, wouldn't we be doing great to go 80 minutes with them at the weekend?
That's it. If we could keep the ball kicked out to them, we'd be doing all right.
Yeah, absolutely. They were like, you have to give credit to England for how good that game was on Saturday. It sometimes feels that we hold the French up as the aristocrats of Six Nations rugby, and all the great games involve either some sort of French grace or some French flakiness. And I think England played their part in what was one of the best first halves of Six Nations rugby I've ever seen. One of the best 40 minutes full stop. It was sensational. Like I know you were making the point earlier on, it's not fair to compare Saturday's game with Sunday's game when it comes to the quality, but it's impossible not to, and it's impossible not to think that England are operating at a higher level than Ireland's. Just a tad at the moment.
All right.
This weekend should be interesting.
Comparison, whatever that phrase is about comparison, it's a disease. We just need to stop comparing everything, and let's wait and see what happens next week. I mean, I don't think we're going to necessarily hammer England. I think we'll certainly play a game against them where it's relatively close heading into the final quarter, which I would consider progress, the way that they've absolutely annihilated us the last couple of times they've played us. Some close near misses. Emma on WhatsApp says Chelsea's Frank Kirby needs an honourable mention for yesterday's Conti Cup final. 4 assists and 2 goals. Was on for a hat-trick but squared the ball to Sam Kerr for Kerr to grab a hat-trick. Kirby had a rare heart issue last year, missed almost all of the season, was ready to quit football, back this season better than ever. Mr. Murch says low in the red. Exciting for Leinster, but a defensive liability for Ireland. Also, get the referee. TMOs in green rightfully got grief for round 3, but almost flawless all weekend. Was Romain Poit nearly in your green?
Yeah, unbelievable performance from him. Put in 2 fantastic tackles as well. Absolute top-class defensive masterclass from Romain Poit. He's
going to wake up pretty sore this morning. It was one of the 22-stone Scottish props who took him out in the first instance. You're like, wow, I wouldn't like to be on the bottom of that. Keith Brennan on Twitter says, surely the Irish women's hockey team deserve a mention for the grand. Beat the Olympic champions Great Britain in Belfast today to show their potential for an Olympic medal in the 2021 Olympics. We can do better than grand for that. That was definitely green. Niamh Kelly has had a sensational game for the Eagles this morning. Aisling Sheridan also scored another 2 goals for Collingwood, says Laura. Owen Murphy on Twitter says Lee Westwood the good, Ireland rugby team the grand, and Sheffield United the bad. Somebody was suggesting Aileen Gilroy should be in the bad for that tackle. Did you see the tackle? Absolutely. Yeah. I'm like, what? That should definitely be green. Not only is it entirely legitimate, it was bone crunching, and yeah, I would say that was green. A couple of other ones. James Lowe's in trouble. Joey Carberry, enough said, the man is back. I'm surprised that we haven't done 2.5 hours this morning on the astonishing break by Joey Carberry that showed that he's pretty close to being ready for whatever it is that's coming next. I mean, I didn't want to put Lions bolter Joey Carberry out there just yet, but like, how much more do we need to see?
Probably 1 test start is what we need to see for him to be a Lions bolter. But he was so good on Friday night, just that Shane Daly try, like just the ability to slice the defence open from a relatively deep starting point. We should point out here that he plays the game a little bit differently to a lot of the number 10s that have obviously made the breakthrough at international level for Ireland. He is just a different talent for Ireland. He's a better talent than most of the people of a similar age to him, and the sooner he is ready to play for Ireland. And if we've got to wait till next year, we've got to wait till the Six Nations next year for Joey Carberry to play for Ireland, I'm okay with that, as long as he feels fully confident in his body and the coaches feel fully confident in him.
Well, he must feel fully confident after playing that game and starting that game. Do you stick him on the bench for the game against England?
No.
Why not?
Big week the following week for Munster. I think that Johan van Graan will surely make a case about that this guy has started 1 game. He needs to play a full 80 minutes before he can be considered for that level. Like, it is a different, like if you watch a Munster game,
20 minutes off the bench.
Watch a Munster game compared to Ireland versus England games. Like, that level of physicality is just of a totally different, completely different galaxy, really.
I totally agree with you, to be honest. I think that there's a case for him being the sub for Munster for the rest of the season as well, as opposed to the starter, that actually you've got to give that body time to get seasoned back up to the point where this is really about the World Cup in 2 years' time as opposed to what's happening. However, you know, if, say he starts against Leinster and Munster win, and then he starts against Toulouse and Munster win, then Lions Bolter suddenly doesn't look ridiculous. And that's not that ridiculous, that Munster would beat Leinster for the first time. They're due one, and then they'll be home. Okay, that's a very good side, but Mikel Arteta for overseeing that win against Leicester and Spurs should be in the green. Tyg Byrne should be in the green, says Harrison. Tyg Fanning says, picking both Tygs, Byrne is now undroppable. Furlong's skills are world class and both have to be Lions. Tyg Furlong didn't get enough love on the show this morning. Yeah,
he was brilliant yesterday. That little jig around the middle of the park. He can step as well as Joey Carberry, I think it's fair to say. Just a couple of other quick mentions on my end of things. Liam Scales, Shamrock Rovers, President's Cup goal. ESPN FC picks it up and says Dennis Bergkamp will be proud of the strike to their 2.3 million followers. Just, you know, League of Ireland casually coming into the consciousness of soccer fans all around the world. He's normally a centre-back, was deployed on the left of midfield and ends up looking like Dennis Bergkamp. Not a bad outing for him. Not a bad weekend for the winners in the League of Ireland in general. Bohemians in their partnership with Fontaine's DC on the front of a pretty cool New Jersey with a section, a good wedge of cash going towards the homeless as well, is surely a win for Bows and for the league in general.
No, 100%. Football cliches were on Twitter after the Rabona going, well, if this happened in the Electricity League, we'd all be going mad about it, so fair play. A reminder, every Monday morning on OTB AM, we're giving you the chance to win a Gillette starter pack. To enter, all you got to do is send your suggestions to us on Twitter and Instagram, WhatsApp, however you want. We want the good, the bad, and the grand. That's the performance rankings.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.